Welcome back to the Track Center Unplugged series. Today we have an amazing opportunity to meet with the vice president and partner, an electrical engineer himself, to share a little bit about the field of engineering and such a hot topic since we have a lot of students that want to major in engineering. My name is Dr. Juan LeBron. I'm a counselor and supervisor here at Lone Star College-Montgomery, and I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
I'm Matthew Sanford. I'm Director of Advising and Counseling here at Lone Star College-Montgomery.
And today we have the pleasure of our guest is Mr. Mario Faria. So Mario, if you can share a little bit about what you do and what your role is as an engineer.
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks for the opportunity, guys. And I'm glad to be here kind of sharing my story and some of my journey into this exciting field. So I started my career as an electrical engineer, as Juan said. I went to Florida State University, got a degree, and started working right away. And then from there, kind of got an advanced degree, and same thing in electrical engineering. I work in the semiconductor space, so it's microchips. And actually today is a hot topic since many people can't buy cars because there's shortages of chips on automobiles, right? Which is interesting. So very hot area right now, right? It's growing, a lot of interest, and really exciting and complex kind of a area to be in. Eventually, I got an MBA and got more into the consulting space, helping companies that make some of these microchips become more effective, more cost effective, how to run their process and the equipment better. Because obviously, like any kind of a firm, right? Cost always comes down to be an important factor, right, of running your business. But from an engineering point of view, right, the background, the foundation, everything that I kind of went in my early years of my career helped me kind of grow into where I'm at in my position today, right?
Well, thank you, Mario. Well, Matthew, I know you get these students that come into your office all the time. I want to be an engineer. And I wanna solve the world's problems, but they really haven't defined what direction to go into, Matthew. So Mario, I know for me, I see those students. What advice do you have for that student that they're thinking about engineering, but they really haven't defined what that direction needs to be for them as far as how to specialize? Like you mentioned, you're an electrical engineer. What got you to specialize, and what recommendation do you have for those students that know they want to go engineering, but they don't know what direction?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And honestly, for me, when I was in high school, right, even in high school, I knew I wanted to do something with engineering, with science, right? I just didn't know where. And really, you never really know what engineering means, right? Because it's such a broad topic, and you can do so many different things, right? You can do civil engineering, which is just more around construction and bridges and different things to that sense, right? Mechanical engineer, there's aeronautical engineers, right? There's electrical engineers, industrial engineers, chemical engineers. Almost every single subject, right, has an engineering aspect to it. To me, electrical, right, I actually wanted to be an aeronautical engineer when I was in high school. And the whole space thing fascinated me, right? It was like more of a passion, more than following what exactly it meant. I found out how much it took to actually go to aerospace engineering school, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll go back to the next level, right? And electrical engineering kind of fell in that category because you can do so many things within being electrical engineering. My wife or my friends sometimes they ask me what do I do, and I say electrical engineering, and they're like, oh, so like you mean you put the wires in the house and stuff, right? I was like, well, not exactly, right, but you could be doing that. You could be designing the systems and the electrical power systems that not only feed into your house, but also the power utility company uses, right? I got involved into microchips or semiconductors really by luck. I went to school. You take your classes, which set the foundation to kind of serve in any field within electrical engineering kind of range. And I did an internship in my senior year where it was kind of working for a company that distributed chips to other assembly houses. And that experience actually got me a call from, back then it was IBM Microelectronics, They say, hey, they hire people out of school, right, all the time. But having that experience, they said, hey, you have a little bit of experience with chips already. Would you want to look into development of those chips, how they're made? And that's really the first instance that I actually worked in the real world, understanding how to design the chips, how do they make them, right? And the process is really fascinating, right? From beginning, which is more computerized, to more of a physical, actual component of how they build the chips, right? And then eventually got into a point where saying, I can start seeing the value of these chips. They're in your cell phones, they're in your computers, right? They're in every electronic. The internet runs some servers, and a lot of the servers I use in this micro components that are built through to a lot of guys like me, right? But going back to the engineering aspect, sometimes it's really the advice I give kids today is try to understand what you like, right? What's your passion? Okay, do you like math? Do you like to touch things? Do you like to be more of a software coding kind of person? Because there are aspects with engineering that you can serve to serve any of those, right? So it's really doing a little bit of research to what you prefer, what you like, because I'm a true believer that you got to be able to have a passion to do what you do, and if you don't have that passion, then it's gonna fall through the cracks, and you're not gonna follow it through because it's not an easy curriculum to go through, right? It's demanding, it's challenging, right? I don't see myself as a super smart guy, right? I think engineers sometimes get that kind of vision that is like, oh, you got to be really smart to be an engineer. I like math, yeah, I like math, and I did okay in school and college. I kind of just I definitely try harder, right, to understand the concepts and really learn the theories right behind it. But you can get a bachelor's degree in engineering and make a really good career out of yourself, right? It pays well. It's really a career that today is hot in the U.S. and across the world. But in the U.S. in particular, there's a shortage of technical skills, and a lot of them are engineers, right? That's what a lot of times you see people coming from overseas, right, to not only come to work here but to study, and continue their education. But it's something that unfortunately, right? I mean, a lot of people living in the U.S. are struggle to get some traction, right, and then really see the benefits of making a career out of engineering.
Hey, Mario, I was kind of curious. I know, Juan, you and I work with a lot of students, as you mentioned a moment ago. We've taken them on bus trips to universities, and a lot of them, Mario, have been engineering focused. I guess the question that comes to mind, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, is we know that a lot of programs for engineering are very competitive, and our students are gearing themselves up for this high competition in relation to being admitted to the university programs, and then in relation to completing the programs well. How competitive is the actual industry once you get in the field? Is that a fair question?
I think that's a fair question. And, today I'm lucky enough that I'm actually hiring people, right? And, I hire guys that could be coming right out of school. Sometimes we hire interns and, experienced folks. But honestly, there is such a shortage today that it's amazing, because I think at one point, right, it's a generation probably gap at some point that we had a lot of good engineers that today they're getting close to retirement, or they're almost at retirement. And through the years, right, we lost a little bit of, people going into the field. So today, a lot of people see more gaming, for example, or, things like, the internet and a couple other exciting things, right, that they see engineering like, well, that's boring, right? That's not for us. I want to be a computer science major, for example, which is nothing wrong, right? But there are definitely gaps today. So yeah, it might be competitive on a higher education point of view, but once you get to the real world, there's no shortage of jobs, really, and the jobs are there, entry level, right? I mean, mid to all the way to senior level work, right? And today, if you want to live in the U.S., it's great. International, you got options to do that too, right? And a lot of people, I travel through my career as well, travel and live in different places. Because of that, because hey, there's the same kind of work that you do here. You can do it in Europe, you can do it in Asia, right? So I definitely think there's actually more of a shortage of resources out there today than there has been in the past.
So Mario, Matthew brings up a good point because, okay, so there are a lot of folks with engineering degrees. And yes, there's a shortage, and yes, there are some gaps in different areas of the field. But okay, I have an engineering degree. Matthew, you have an engineering degree. Mario, you have an engineering degree. What are those key elements that'll separate us, right? That will make us more competitive and attractive as candidates to connect with so many different industries out there? Like, what are those key elements that you think students can work on, or professionals or young professionals can work on to build within their profile that will separate them from the average?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think something I learned later in my career is that there are some skills that really you have to go and search for them, and you have to acquire them yourself, right? And today, honestly, you know, with the internet, LinkedIn, Google, everything is out there, their resources are unlimited, right? But two things that tend to stand out to me are, one is the ability to actually show some real work, you know, through internships, remote support or certain things, right? Showing that as an experience, even though if it's an introductory type of work, right? But being exposed to the real world, it's a huge asset, right? And if I'm someone looking at a resume of someone straight out of school with a 4.0 GPA, but no real life experience, and I see someone with a competitive GPA, but maybe has a few months of experience out there, done something, hey, that tells me, hey, this person's at least been involved, exposed to that. So that's one thing. The second one, for more experience, I would say even if you're still in school, learning the financial aspects of engineering, and meaning, hey, I want to be an aerospace engineer and I want to build spaceships. Hey, I want to know if I'm building a rocket, right? I want to know what it takes to build that rocket from a financial point of view. Being able to speak a financial language is also a huge asset that people actually, number one, they don't teach it very well in school. But it's something that is sometimes is common sense. You know, we're smart guys. We can figure things out. You know how much things cost. There's components. There's labor, right? And at the end of the day, is that product that I'm making is going to have some profits, right? So that's those two things I think are key when I'm at least I can differentiate one person versus another, right?
And Mario, you had mentioned earlier about math. You said you enjoy working with math. How much math do you actually use in your day-to-day job?
Right. You know, my kids ask me the same question all the time. My oldest son, he wants to be. It's funny enough, I didn't even influence or told him this, but he wants to be an aerospace engineer. I was like, how is this? The genes is in the genes, right? But they were asking me about that. It's like, they go through all this math in school, and I gotta take calculus 1 and all this calculus, right? It's like, how much math do you actually use? And my answer was, honestly, it's not that you use it on a day-to-day basis, but it's the foundation on how to solve those problems that we're teaching in math, to be able to apply those concepts to the real world, right? I'm not going to be solving a differential equation on my day-to-day job, but I'm going to be able to think how I solve a differential equation when I'm trying to solve a real world problem, for example. Something that I use today, every day, and it's the ability to quickly give answers, right? And that impresses not only your peers, but the people you work with, is being able to, quickly come up with answers. Hey, I'm looking at a chart and I see 80% of the population or something is doing whatever, is doing. And I can come up in my head and say, hey, that's either the root cause or something, or that gives me some indication to solve a problem faster, right? And I think in engineering in general, there is almost an expectation to be able to know that, and math is what allows you to get to that thinking, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting, Matthew, that you say that, because that's, when students start seeing you need Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3 differential equations, right? Some linear algebra,
right?
They immediately, you can identify early, like, who's comfortable with that and who's like, oh, I don't want to do all of that. So that brings a question to me. Recently, Matthew and I had an interview with the department chair of an engineering technology program at a local university here. And he talked about the applied side of engineering, being an engineering tech, being a field service tech and an engineering technologist. So from an applied standpoint, he was talking about, it's still engineering for his field, not as in depth or not as lengthy of a math trajectory, but more of that hands-on applied side of engineering. Is what do you think, Mario? Is there a shortage of field service techs? And how can engineering technology be a track that could be a possibility for someone that doesn't want to go traditional engineering track and kind of wants to do more of the hands-on approach?
Oh yeah, and honestly, in my industry today, we know that, talk about shortages. It's not just engineers, but this field tech kind of support, right? And in our industry, there are big equipment manufacturers, right? And these equipments are really complex, right? And cost millions of dollars, right? So servicing this equipment, maintaining them, right? Making them improve, run better, right? Run more efficient. A lot of times the companies like, I'll give you a couple of names: Supply Materials, Lam Research, ASML, which is some of the big kind of OEM manufacturers in the semiconductor industry. This guys hire thousands of these field technicians, that guys out there. They not only are working on their tools from a development point of view, but also can, if you want to travel, you got the ability to do that. And you don't need a 4-year degree for that, right? You need probably a 2-year, very specialized type of technical skills that maybe, if the calculus and the heavy math, right, doesn't incite you, then you can go on that path. And honestly, it pays very well too, right? It's not like this is the entry level jobs, right? These are very well paying jobs, and huge benefits. And like I said, if you're a hands-on kind of guy that likes to turn wrenches and test things, right? Well, plenty of opportunities in there, right? And I'm talking about my industry because I know that, but any other industry, automotive, right? Industrial applications, solar, and you see a lot of new kind of emerging technologies, space, same thing. They all need equipment. They all need systems that need to be taken care of. And a lot of these jobs, right, come within those folks that, come in, and they like the hands-on. They like the being able to touch hardware and do something, right?
And speaking, Mario, of your industry, how often do you interact with engineers from other areas, non-electrical?
Yeah, all the time, right? And I work in particular in a company that we have industrial engineers. That's actually the majority of the population in my company is our industrial engineers. But we have process engineering. There's equipment engineers, they call it, but they're basically a mix of mechanical and some electrical. Chemical engineers, a lot of the guys that define processes using certain chemistries and stuff fall within that category. So there's definitely interaction. And honestly, in any company, any industry you go to, you're going to see that, right? Unless you're maybe in more specialized, like construction or, architecture, for example. So very much specialized. But anything that you are building a product, a system of some kind, it's going to require a cross-disciplinary of different engineering flavors, right?
Thanks, Mario. I'm excited to see that there's such a high demand and that there are a lot of opportunities for our students, to follow. One thing that you've done in reading your bio is that not only did you complete an undergrad and a graduate degree in engineering, but you added a master's in business, an executive master's in business administration. So you now have that business side. And you mentioned earlier that you do a lot of business consulting. How has it helped you to have the engineering as a foundation, but then to add that business, education and certification in your role? I see that a lot of engineers, I don't know if you've noticed this, Matthew, but I see that a lot of engineers in industry, not only do they have an engineering degree, but they're also adding an MBA. And how common is that, and how does that help you or give you advantage?
Yeah, and I think you're right. There's, and I'm going to tell you, I think probably one reason if you're an engineering background of some kind and you start working at a company, most likely that company is going to give you 2 paths. You could become a manager of some kind, where you get involved more with human resources and managing people. You still got to have kind of an engineering knowledge, right? Or you could be an engineering kind of what they call a technical ladder, kind of a career path, where you're becoming more of a expert, right, within a particular very focused area, right? The MBA approach, would allows you to actually see more of the business side of things. To me, it depends on the personality you have, right? And it depends on the type of, where do you want to take your career? Some people like the technical ladder aspect, because I'm like, look, I love what I do, and I want to become an expert at what I do. I want to write papers and, teach about what I can do. So that's very much specialized to that. The engineering manager, same thing. It's a little bit of mix of between, I don't want to deal with the business aspect of things, right? I want to be in charge of a group of people that I know, and I know what they're building. For me, the MBA gave me, like, I always felt like I could do more, right, within my job. I was really good at what I did, right? And look, I deliver, but then at some point I said, hey, maybe this opens up a world of opportunities, and in a way, and it did. It really taught me about how much power is within engineering background, and understanding the cost components, understanding how sales and product marketing, and stuff gets involved in that, right? And being able to design a product that actually a customer wants, not just and that's the big difference. There's a line typically, right? You have engineering that's very creative, innovative, right? But sometimes you miss the voice of what the customer wants. Hey, customer's telling me I want a product that does this, this, and this. The engineering is thinking, I want to innovate this and create a great product, right? So being able to match that, that's where I think, I fall in that category, where I can translate kind of a business need to engineering kind of design and aspects that are really true engineering functions, right?
Juan, as Mario's talking, I'm thinking about the different students that we visited with over the past many years in relation to engineering, and the different personalities that come in, Mario. A lot of them are just so high energy and high level thinking, and there are others that, are struggling with the concept, like Juan had mentioned about math. But I'm kind of thinking about a question, and I don't know if you can answer this, but do you have a challenging project maybe that you've had in your career as an engineer that has kind of caused you to think about things differently?
Yeah, many different challenges, right, from a project point of view. But one thing that I always remember, it's a particular manager I had, and this is actually back in Texas when I lived in Texas. So I had this manager, and in the real world, there's different kinds of managers, right? There's guys that are more soft-spoken, right? Let you do your job. But this guy was not that. This guy was straight in your face, right? Tell you how it is, right? A couple of times, people will come out of conference rooms crying, right? This is the kind of person that it was. But this guy taught me to basically, I learned his type of manager, right? And I learned that when he told you something, it wasn't because he wanted to be, a-hole some kind, right? It was more about really try to teach you, right, something. And not everybody, had that same technique, right? But this guy actually thought, when I saw him, and it's like, I learned so much, and I learned to respect this person. And to this point, right, this is early in my career, probably like 17 years ago. This guy, it's like, he really told me, he's like, look, the reason I told you this in the conference room is because I want you to actually learn and explain it to me. So it's not you just providing some information for me. I want you to really understand that. And to me, again, it wasn't the biggest challenge of my career, but you feel heard, right? It's like, man, what's this guy telling me? I'm a smart guy, right? I'm doing this. And those lessons, right, is like they stick with you. And today I can call that guy and say, hey, George, how you doing? It's how, hopefully he's not listening to this because he'll come back to me. but it's something that to this point, right, it's like something as small as that, it sticks with me. And I use that in my advantage to, one, that's not my style, right? So I try to find a style though. I want to deliver the message he had though, which was really to whoever you're trying to, deliver a message or teach something, that it sticks to that person. And they find a way to actually, for that person to understand, is like, okay, come up with the reasoning behind it. Tell me how you come up with that answer, right? So that's something, again, maybe not a challenging from a problem point of view, but through your career, you get through these situations, right, where, it helps you grow, it helps you mature and really understand different personalities, nationalities, cultures, right, which today we're exposed on a daily basis, right?
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Mario. And let me ask you one last question as we get ready to wrap up. A lot of students are constantly, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Matthew, I'm sure you have, where there's a lot of competition out there as it relates to university and programs to choose from, right? So what recommendations would you say you have for a student that they know they want to go into the field of engineering, but they're more concerned about, I need to go to this type of school or this name of a school versus these other schools, and there's just so many, competitive options out there. What advice do you have for someone as they're trying to narrow down and choose the proper engineering department or engineering university or institution to get into and become an engineering student? What are those traits that you said, you can look for as you compare programs?
Yeah, and look, there's some great programs out there, right? I mean, there's definitely nothing, there's nothing negative you're gonna hear if you went to MIT, right? I mean, obviously, to get into MIT, yeah, you better have, a great background behind it, and if you don't have the background, you better have some money to pay for it, right? So, to me, and honestly, I come from very humble kind of upbringings, right? And I tell my kids the same way. It's like, look, if you know you want to be in a particular area, test it out first. They don't need to commit to a big program that is going to be hard to get into and get your heart broken, right? Find a way to have a similar program in another way, whether it's because of your resources constraints or maybe your grades weren't good enough, right? Find a way to test it out. You can always get there, right? If you prove yourself that, hey, this is really what I like to do and I want to finish there, you can always start somewhere else, more affordable, that gives you the same kind of, entry-level qualifications at least. Test out the program, and then from there, build up from there. I'll tell you one thing, when we hire people, whether it's me or anybody else, school that you went to is not the top thing we're looking for, right? We're looking for whether you have good grades, whether you have some experience, right? Whether you went to a state school, a private school, or really Ivy League school even, right? It's really not the top thing factor we look for, right, in the industry.
All right. We still got time, Juan? You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think I was having an issue pressing the button here, but Mario, we just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Students, community members, if you want to get into the field of engineering, I hope that Mr. Faria has provided some, highlights about what it takes to be an effective engineer and to choose the pathways to get into a field of engineering. Engineering, like you just learned and heard, it's a broad field, but it has a lot of rewards. There's a high yield of return in your investment, and there are a lot of programs to choose from. So as you meet with us in the Track Center here at Lone Star College-Montgomery, check us out, connect with us. We'll love to listen to your plans, listen to your goals, so that we can help you navigate this journey and help you connect with the engineering program of your choice. Matthew, any last parting words?
Mario, I'd just like to thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you and to have you share your input with us. And I know that our students will benefit from your words of wisdom. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you so much. All right, check us out in the next Track Center Unplugged series as we highlight another career and industry professional. See you soon. Go Mavericks.